The acceptance letter was a golden ticket, a lifeline to a dream. Maya, brilliant and hardworking, had earned her place at a prestigious American university. But in a house filled with resentment, her victory was a bitter pill for her stepmother and stepsister. That night, under the cloak of darkness, a devious plot was set in motion, a quiet, chilling betrayal that would swap her destiny with another's. A stolen dream, a forged future. Who will walk through the university gates? The deserving scholar, or the one whose name was never meant to be there? The afternoon sun, warm and golden, kissed Maya's face as she practically flew down the street. A bright, uncontainable smile lit up her features, reflecting the sheer joy bubbling in her chest. Clutched tightly in her hand, as if it were the most precious treasure, was a crisp white envelope, inside of which lay the notification of her acceptance to a prestigious university in the United States. This wasn't just a letter. It was a lifeline, a promise, a gateway to a future she had only dared to dream of in the darkest corners of her mind. "Dad," she called out, her voice a joyful exclamation, ready to burst through the door and share the monumental news with everyone. But the moment she stepped inside, the vibrant world outside seemed to instantly curdle into a stagnant, heavy atmosphere. The usual clamor of the house was replaced by a suffocating silence, broken only by quiet sobs. Her half-sister, Chloe, sat huddled on the living room sofa, her shoulders shaking, tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Laura, Chloe's biological mother and Maya's stepmother, sat stroking Chloe's hair, her own face etched with a performative sympathy. Chloe, the same age as Maya, had also taken her university entrance exams this year, but her silence spoke volumes. She had failed. Her father, Arthur, sat nearby, his expression grim, adding to the somber tableau. Maya froze, her bright smile faltering, then vanishing completely. The joyful news she carried suddenly felt like a heavy, unwelcome burden. The words caught in her throat. How could she announce her triumph when Chloe was in such despair? She stood awkwardly by the doorway, the precious letter still clutched in her hand, now feeling like a forbidden secret. Maya's life had been a cruel twist of fate long before this moment. Her biological mother, a woman of gentle spirit and radiant smiles, had succumbed to a devastating depression after discovering Arthur's infidelity. Maya was only 8 years old when her mother faded away, leaving her utterly heartbroken and vulnerable. No sooner had her mother been laid to rest than Arthur, seemingly without a moment of remorse, brought Laura and Chloe into their home. From that day forward, Maya's childhood vanished. At just 8 years old, she was stripped of her innocence and burdened with the responsibilities of a live-in maid. She was expected to clean the entire house, cook every meal, wash every dish, while Chloe, who was always praised for her beauty and charm, lived a life of pampered ease, showered with affection and indulgence from both Arthur and Laura. Laura, with her cold eyes and sharp tongue, harbored an immediate, seething jealousy towards Maya. Perhaps it was Maya's resemblance to her late mother, or simply the very existence of Arthur's first child, that fueled Laura's animosity. She seized every opportunity to verbally abuse Maya, to find fault in everything she did, to deny her meals as punishment for imagined slights. Many nights, Maya would go to bed with her stomach rumbling, tears silently tracing paths through the grime on her cheeks, clutching the tattered photo of her mother. She was an uninvited guest in her own home, a perpetual nuisance, a shadow meant to be unseen and unheard. This university acceptance wasn't just a letter of admission, it was her ticket to freedom, her chance to escape this suffocating existence. This was her opportunity to finally break free from the invisible chains that bound her to a home where she was treated as nothing more than a convenient, disposable servant. Arthur, noticing Maya standing stiffly by the doorway, broke the silence. "What's all this noise, Maya? Why are you just standing there?" His voice was gruff, annoyed by her mere presence disrupting the solemnity of Chloe's grief. His eyes then fell on the white envelope in her hand. "What's that you're holding?" he demanded, a flicker of irritation in his gaze. Before Maya could even form a reply, he snatched the letter from her hand, his fingers surprisingly quick. His eyes scanned the bold lettering. As he read the name of the prestigious university, his expression shifted from annoyance to disbelief, then to an ugly, simmering resentment. "What is this? Your name? Accepted into this university?" he spat out, as if the words themselves tasted foul. Laura and Chloe, startled by Arthur's sudden outburst, looked up. Chloe, still sniffling, wiped her eyes and saw the letter in her father's hand. Her eyes widened, recognizing the university logo. "What?" Chloe gasped, her voice shrill with disbelief. "That university? But that's the one I applied to. That's my dream school." Her face crumpled, the tears of disappointment over her own failure now mingling with a bitter, searing jealousy. "How could she get in?" she wailed, turning to Laura for comfort. Laura's face hardened, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Maya with an intense, undisguised hatred. She hugged Chloe closer, murmuring soothing words, but her gaze at Maya promised retribution. The acceptance letter, held loosely in Arthur's hand, suddenly felt like a weapon. Instinctively, Maya reached out and snatched the letter back, clutching it defensively behind her back. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a mixture of fear and a desperate need to protect this fragile piece of hope. Arthur's face contorted into a furious scowl. "What are you standing around for?" he barked, his voice laced with venom. "Go and cook dinner for everyone. That piece of paper isn't going to feed us." His words were a cruel dismissal of her hard-won achievement, reducing her lifelong dream to a worthless scrap of paper. Terrified, Maya recoiled. She mumbled a barely audible, "Yes, Dad," her voice trembling. She spun on her heel, her one thought to safeguard her precious letter. She darted into her small, cramped room, hastily tucking the acceptance notification deep inside a hidden compartment of her worn backpack, as if a monster might tear it away. With her heart still pounding, she then headed straight for the kitchen, the familiar clatter of pots and pans a stark contrast to the silence of her shattered joy. The promise of freedom was tantalizingly close, yet the bars of her cage seemed to tighten around her with every passing moment. That evening, a tense silence hung over the dinner table. Maya, despite her earlier fright, had cooked a meal that was, as usual, impeccable. Yet, no one praised her. Arthur and Laura barely acknowledged her presence, their attention solely on Chloe, who sniffled dramatically, playing the victim. Maya ate quickly, her eyes cast down, trying to make herself invisible, her mind replaying the anger in her father's eyes. She clutched the secret of her acceptance letter, a beacon of hope she desperately clung to. Later that night, as silence finally descended upon the house and Maya retreated to her small, unadorned room, a hushed, sinister conversation unfolded behind the closed doors of Arthur and Laura's bedroom. "That girl, Maya, doesn't deserve to go to that university," Laura hissed, her voice low and venomous. "That scholarship, that spot, it should rightfully belong to our daughter." Arthur sat in silence, staring blankly ahead, his usual stoicism a mask for his troubled conscience. Laura, undeterred by his quietness, pressed on. "I have an idea, Arthur. What if Chloe goes to that university instead? With Maya's acceptance letter? Maya can stay home and work to help us. That way, Chloe will be happy, and we won't have the burden of supporting Maya while she studies." Arthur remained quiet for a long moment, the dark proposition sinking in. His expression was grim, but a calculating gleam flickered in his eyes. The thought of Chloe happy, and Maya, the unwelcome reminder of his past transgressions, contributing financially, slowly began to outweigh any residual sense of paternal duty. He was a man driven by convenience and self-interest, and Laura's scheme offered a clear, if morally repugnant, path. "All right," he finally grunted, the single word a chilling seal on Maya's fate. "We'll do it." Hours later, deep in the pre-dawn stillness, when the entire house was plunged into the heavy sleep of midnight, a shadow moved stealthily through the dark hallway. Arthur, his movements deliberate and quiet, crept towards Maya's door. The floorboards creaked faintly beneath his weight, each sound magnified in the oppressive silence. He paused outside her room, listening for any sign of movement, his heart pounding a nervous rhythm against his ribs. Finding no sound, he slowly, painstakingly, turned the doorknob. The old wood groaned softly, a protest against his intrusion. He slipped inside, the darkness in Maya's room almost absolute. Moonlight, a sliver through the gaps in the thin curtains, barely illuminated the cramped space. He found Maya's worn backpack on her small, rickety desk. His hands trembled slightly as he fumbled for the hidden compartment she had hastily tucked the letter into earlier. With a practiced hand, he retrieved the precious acceptance letter. In its place, he slid in a crudely forged duplicate, a fake acceptance letter he and Laura had hastily printed, hoping it would pass muster if ever examined by Maya in her presumed excitement. The real letter, Maya's true ticket to freedom, he folded meticulously and slipped into his own pocket, a prize stolen under the cloak of night. He then crept out of the room as silently as he had entered, the door clicking softly shut behind him, leaving Maya blissfully unaware of the theft that had just occurred. The next morning, Maya approached her father hesitantly, the courage of her convictions battling with years of ingrained fear. "Dad," she began, her voice small but determined, I want to go to university. I'll work part-time, and I promise I'll take care of all my living expenses. I won't be a burden to you." She looked from Arthur to Laura, hoping for a flicker of approval, a sign of support. Arthur grunted, pretending to be preoccupied with his morning newspaper. He didn't even look up at her. "Humph. She's grown up now, hasn't she? Doesn't depend on her family anymore. Do whatever you want." His tone was dismissive, subtly laced with a condescending indifference. Laura, sipping her tea, added with a sneer, "Oh, she's about to be successful, isn't she? Soon she won't even consider us her parents anymore." Her words were designed to sting, to make Maya feel guilty for daring to seek a better life. Maya remained silent, her shoulders slumping slightly. The coldness of their words was familiar, but the casual dismissal felt particularly cutting today. She sensed an odd undertone, a strange lack of genuine anger, replaced by an unsettling, almost smug, detachment. It made her uneasy, but her excitement for university pushed the unease to the back of her mind. The days blurred into weeks, filled with Maya's diligent preparations. She managed to save a small amount of money from her meager allowance, meticulously organizing the few belongings she would take with her. Her entire future hinged on the day of university enrollment. The night before, her heart thrummed with a mixture of nervous anticipation and exhilarating freedom. She carefully packed her backpack, double-checking that her acceptance letter, the fake one, unknown to her, was safely tucked inside. She set her alarm for 5 a.m., determined not to miss a single moment of her long-awaited escape. Just as the house settled into its quiet rhythm, a soft knock came at her door. Maya looked up, surprised. Laura stood there, holding a glass of warm milk. Her face was unusually soft, a strange, almost tender smile gracing her lips. "Maya," Laura said, her voice unusually gentle, "you're leaving for university tomorrow, aren't you? Here, drink this milk. You'll need your strength for the journey. Remember to take care of yourself." Maya stared at her stepmother, bewildered. This unexpected kindness, this sudden show of concern, was so utterly alien to Laura's usual demeanor that it sent a shiver down Maya's spine. A flicker of suspicion crossed her mind, a tiny alarm bell ringing faintly. But the warmth of the milk, the rare gesture, quickly soothed her apprehension. Perhaps, just perhaps, Laura felt a tiny bit of genuine goodwill after all these years. Perhaps, at the very end, there was a fleeting moment of human connection. Overcome by a desperate desire to believe in that possibility, Maya pushed away her doubts. "Thank you, stepmother," Maya said softly, taking the glass. She drank it all, the sweet warmth spreading through her, unaware that with every sip, she was ingesting a powerful sedative. A heavy, insidious feeling began to creep over her, pulling her down into a deep, inescapable slumber, orchestrated by the very people who should have celebrated her triumph. The world, when Maya finally woke, was an echoing void. Her head throbbed with a dull, persistent ache, and her limbs felt heavy, as if made of lead. Sunlight streamed through her window, a harsh, unforgiving glare that felt wrong. She reached for her phone, her vision still blurry, and her heart leaped into her throat. The date, the time. It was not the morning of her university enrollment. It was the day after. She had missed it. Her alarm, which she had so carefully set for 5 a.m., hadn't even registered in her drugged sleep. A wave of panic, cold and absolute, washed over her. The milk, the sudden, uncharacteristic kindness from Laura. It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. She stumbled out of her room, her legs wobbly, her mind racing. Downstairs, she found Arthur and Laura lounging on the sofa, watching television with an almost unnerving calm. Chloe was nowhere in sight. "Mom! Dad!" Maya cried, her voice hoarse with a mixture of terror and betrayal. "What happened? I overslept. I missed my enrollment. Why didn't anyone wake me up?" Arthur barely glanced at her, his eyes still glued to the screen. "Oh, you finally decided to wake up, did you?" he said, a dismissive wave of his hand. "You slept so soundly, we couldn't possibly wake you. So we took care of it." Laura turned, a smug, satisfied smirk playing on her lips. "Yes, dear. Since you were so determined to sleep through your big day, we decided it was only fair that your sister, Chloe, should get the opportunity. We gave your acceptance notification to her. She's already enrolled. She'll be attending university in your place. And you, my dear, you'll stay home and contribute to the family by finding a job." The words hit Maya like a physical blow, stealing the air from her lungs. The betrayal was so profound, so utterly cruel, it defied comprehension. Her dream, her escape, her entire future, stolen by her own family, the very people who should have supported her. Her body trembled, not from the remnants of the drug, but from a surge of incandescent rage she had never known. "No!" Maya screamed, the sound tearing from her throat. "No, I don't agree. You can't do this. This is my life. My future." Arthur finally tore his gaze from the TV, his eyes narrowing into a cold, hard stare. "You go anywhere, you step out of this house with that attitude, and don't ever think about coming back," he snarled, his voice low and menacing. "This is our decision. You live under our roof, you follow our rules." A chilling calm settled over Maya, a quiet resolve forged in the crucible of absolute betrayal. The decades of subservience, the years of silent suffering, snapped. "Fine," she said, her voice trembling but firm, her eyes burning into her father's. "If that's your decision, then write me a paper. A paper that cuts all ties. Disowns me. I don't want to be your daughter anymore." Arthur and Laura looked at each other, surprised by her defiance, but then a flicker of relief crossed their faces. This was exactly what they wanted, to be rid of the burden entirely, without any future obligations. Arthur, with a chilling lack of hesitation, grabbed a pen and paper. In hurried, scrawled handwriting, he wrote a brief declaration severing all parental and familial ties with Maya, effective immediately. He signed it, and Laura, with a triumphant smirk, added her signature as a witness. Maya snatched the paper, her hands shaking. This piece of paper, though legally questionable, felt like a powerful talisman of liberation. She walked straight to her room, grabbed the small backpack she had packed the night before, its contents now a symbol of defiant independence, not hopeful departure. And without another word, without looking back, she walked out of the house that had never truly been a home, leaving behind 15 years of abuse, neglect, and the shattered remnants of a stolen dream. The world outside was harsh, unforgiving, and utterly unknown. Maya was alone, with just a few meager belongings, the clothes on her back, and a piece of paper that declared her undaughtered. But she also carried something else, an unbreakable spirit forged in adversity, and a burning desire for justice that transcended bitterness. For the next 4 years, while Chloe was nominally attending university on Maya's stolen scholarship, living off her parents' dwindling resources and producing consistently abysmal academic results, Maya was building her own empire from the ground up. Chloe's university career was a disaster. Her grades were consistently low, her attendance sporadic, and her interest non-existent. Arthur and Laura had to constantly bail her out, selling off assets and draining their savings, even resorting to bribing faculty to ensure Chloe scraped by with a degree, a hollow triumph built on lies and stolen dreams. Meanwhile, Maya disappeared from their lives entirely. She took on every odd job she could find, working grueling shifts as a waitress in cheap diners, washing dishes in greasy kitchens, anything to put food on her table and a roof over her head. But her days of labor were only half her story. Every night, fueled by instant coffee and sheer willpower, she immersed herself in online business courses. She devoured knowledge, from e-commerce strategies to marketing trends, supply chain management to brand building. She taught herself graphic design, fabric sourcing, and the intricacies of online sales. Her passion for fashion, long suppressed, rekindled with a fiery intensity. She spent countless hours sketching designs, envisioning clothing lines that were both elegant and accessible. Slowly, painstakingly, Maya saved every penny. She invested in a used sewing machine, then a bolt of fabric, then began selling her unique, handcrafted designs online. Her dedication, talent, and relentless work ethic paid off. Her small online venture grew, gaining traction, attracting customers who appreciated her unique vision. Within 4 years, what began as a desperate attempt at survival had transformed into a thriving, successful enterprise. Nova Chic, a burgeoning fashion company known for its innovative designs and high-quality, ethically sourced products. Maya, the discarded girl, was now a powerful, self-made CEO. Years later, after Chloe had barely scraped through her university education, still utterly clueless about the real world, she began applying for jobs. Through a stroke of incredible irony, or perhaps fate, she saw an opening at a rapidly growing fashion company, Nova Chic. Unaware that the CEO was the very sister she had betrayed, Chloe applied, and, leveraging the prestigious university name on her fraudulent degree, managed to secure an entry-level position. Chloe, true to her nature, remained lazy and entitled. She often complained about the work, believing she deserved more without putting in the effort. But her entitlement soon escalated to outright theft. She began secretly stealing designer dresses from the company's collection, taking them home to wear, then attempting to return them or sell them. What she didn't know was that Maya, meticulous and strategic, had installed discreet surveillance in her design and inventory areas after noticing discrepancies. The evidence, clear as day, accumulated. Video footage of Chloe meticulously folding stolen garments into her oversized bag. One momentous day, Maya called for an all-staff meeting, a rare occurrence for such a large gathering. A palpable buzz of anticipation filled the spacious corporate auditorium. Maya stood at the podium, her presence commanding, her gaze sweeping over her employees, including Chloe, who sat fidgeting in her seat. Maya planned to use this meeting to make a few key announcements and, more importantly, to finally reveal her identity to Chloe in a professional, public setting. Unbeknownst to Maya, Chloe had already overheard whispers about a big announcement, and, in her typical self-absorbed manner, immediately called her parents, Arthur and Laura, convinced it was something grand that would benefit her. She excitedly told them, "Maya's the CEO. She's running this huge company." Arthur and Laura, upon hearing of Maya's astounding success, were overjoyed, not for Maya, but for the wealth and prestige they believed they could now leech off of. Minutes before Maya was about to make her announcement, a commotion erupted in the grand lobby of Nova Chic's headquarters. Arthur and Laura, brimming with self-importance, had stormed past the reception desk, demanding to see the CEO. Security guards, trained to protect the privacy of their high-profile leader, blocked their path. "We are the CEO's parents," Arthur bellowed, his voice echoing through the gleaming lobby. "You call the CEO out here right now. We demand to see our daughter. And I'm Maya's sister," Chloe shrieked from behind them, trying to push past the guards. Just then, the double doors leading from the executive suites opened. Maya emerged, flanked by her stern-faced executive assistant, Sarah, and a legal team. Her face was a mask of cold composure, her eyes utterly devoid of warmth as they landed on the trio. "These people are not my parents," Maya stated, her voice sharp and clear, cutting through the clamor. "Security, escort them out immediately." Arthur's face contorted in outrage. "Ah, so you're successful now, and you've forgotten your own father, have you?" he bellowed, pointing an accusatory finger. Maya met his gaze unflinchingly. "Isn't that exactly what you wanted?" she retorted, her voice dripping with ice. "Didn't you tell me to leave and never come back? Didn't you write a paper disowning me?" Arthur's mouth snapped shut, his face turning an ugly shade of red. He had no answer. Maya then turned her attention to Chloe, her eyes narrowing. "And as for you, Chloe," she announced, her voice resonating with authority that brooked no argument, "you are fired for theft of company property." Chloe's eyes widened in horror. "What? What have I done?" she stammered, feigning innocence. Sarah, Maya's executive assistant, stepped forward, holding up a tablet. The screen displayed crystal-clear video footage. Chloe, in vivid detail, sneaking designer dresses into her bag. The lobby fell silent, save for Chloe's choked gasp. Arthur and Laura rushed forward, their arrogance dissolving into desperate pleas. "No. Maya, please. Have mercy. Don't pursue this. Please, child, consider that we are your parents." Maya, however, was unmoved. Her eyes were cold, distant. She reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out a faded, creased piece of paper, the disownment document Arthur had so eagerly signed all those years ago. She held it up, displaying it for everyone to see. "From the day this paper was signed," Maya declared, her voice ringing with finality, "I stopped considering you my family." With those words, she turned and walked away, her back straight, her stride purposeful. Chloe stood frozen, then burst into frantic sobs as the company's lawyers stepped forward, taking out their phones to call the police. Arthur and Laura were restrained by security guards, their pleas and protests falling on deaf ears, watching helplessly as their other daughter, the one they had chosen, was led away to face justice. In the aftermath, Chloe faced legal consequences for her theft. She was fired from Nova Chic and ordered to pay a substantial fine, a sum far beyond her meager means. Her reputation in the industry was ruined, making it impossible for her to secure any decent employment. No company dared to hire a known thief with a fraudulent degree. Arthur and Laura, already financially strapped from years of indulging Chloe and her failed university stint, spiraled further into destitution. With Chloe unable to find work and contributing nothing, they were forced to sell their remaining assets, moving into a much smaller, dilapidated home. All three of them were reduced to working low-wage service jobs, struggling daily to make ends meet and repay Chloe's fines. Their lives became a bitter cycle of poverty, regret, and resentment, a direct consequence of their choices. Meanwhile, Maya's company, Nova Chic, continued its meteoric rise. It expanded globally, becoming a leader in the fashion industry. Maya, the once discarded child, built a life of immense success, integrity, and genuine happiness. She continued to live her life with purpose, surrounded by people who respected and admired her for her talent, her resilience, and her unwavering strength. The scales of justice, though slow, had finally balanced, affirming that true success is built not on privilege or betrayal, but on an indomitable spirit and a heart that remembers kindness. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any thoughts or opinions about this story, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel to support us. Your support means the world. Thank you again.